Auburn loses another key recruiting coach, and as the dead period approaches, we got to talk more transfer portal.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off, and you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another live edition of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five. Let's get after it. We're going to talk about Charles Kelly leaving. What's Auburn going to do? How do you replace that type of production on the trail, the impact that he made while he was here, and the dead period? It kicks off. All right, it starts up at midnight tonight. So, hey, we got to figure out where Auburn stands so far in the transfer portal, what's left, and what to look forward to over the next couple of weeks as visit talk dies down and it's just about closing deals. And then will there be any additional guys enter the portal from some of these bowl teams that are finishing up, playoff teams that were eliminated, things of that nature. But before we get started, we got to give a shout out to mybookie.ag. Use coupon code NEXTROUND for two coupon codes, actually. Next round for a next round for a 50% deposit bonus, and TNR Casino for a 300% deposit bonus in the casino. So definitely take advantage of those. Hit that casino, win big, go to the sports book, have fun there too. Check it out. Mybookie.ag. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys. So Charles Kelly is out. That was a big loss. He takes the head coaching job at Jacksonville State. Somewhat unexpected, but he was on the list. Like, people talked about him being on the list of possibly being the head coach there. He coached there in the mid-90s. There were several guys ahead of him, though. So Jacksonville State had a rough time landing that guy, and then when they finally just had to make a call, they went ahead and locked down Charles, and he's kind of putting together a pretty nice-looking little staff so far. I think he got Clint Trickett as his offensive coordinator, and his dad's going to be their offensive line coach, longtime offensive line coach. So I'm anxious to see what he does there because, the Alabama ties, that job, Rich Rod had a lot of success there. And I think Charles Kelly could do pretty good there. I think it could be a pretty decent transfer portal location. And again, he's got all the ties in the state of Alabama. And the state of Alabama has some pretty good talent that goes sort of unnoticed a lot of times. So what do you guys think about it? How big of a loss do you think it is? How can we replace that type of production and all that stuff? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. He's been a pretty vital part of this sort of defensive renaissance over this past year. Really, really mixed well with DJ Durkin. Our defensive backs were all young, but all played really, really good. I mean, look at Caleb Harris, Jay Crawford. Those guys just had incredible production. And he also, he was one of the key guys on the trail that helped, secure, especially the guys on the defensive side. Look at those two safeties coming in this 2025 class, Anquan Fagans, Eric Winters. You saw those guys both kind of definitely make it note that they're sad that he's leaving, but obviously they're still locked in with Auburn. Can't really go anywhere anyway if they wanted to. But yeah, he was part of very vital as far as landing that class. So it kind of feels like he did like 5 years worth of service, but he's only here 1 year. It's kind of crazy. I felt like he's been here the whole time, but he's only been here 1 year. So he did a lot of work while he was here. Very, very, very vital piece that's going to be gone. Vital in helping build back a lot of the inroads in state. Really key in helping us get our foot in the door and having a sort of a stronghold at Thompson High School. I think Hugh played a big role in that as well. But a lot of that's just going to be tough to replace. It's going to be tough to replace. And you got two coaches now that have left for promotions. And that's typically a good sign. That's typically a good sign that you're making the right hires when both guys leave for better jobs. You got Josh Aldridge leaving to be a coordinator, and then you got Charles Kelly leaving to be a head coach. I'd say you nailed it on both of those. Nailed it on both of those hires for sure. Yeah, it makes the TJ Rushing promotion make a lot more sense. I think there was some cross signals. I think a lot of people just tried to draw conclusions that because Josh Aldridge was gone and you hired TJ Rushing, that naturally he would just slide in there and be the edge coach. I think that was a lot of the press release stuff, was that he was being hired to be the edge coach. But in reality, you look just a short, 12-ish hours later, and Charles Kelly's out, and it makes sense now that you go ahead and get TJ Rushing promoted, get him in that driver's seat of being the safeties coach, another awesome recruiter. The kids are already familiar with him. He's been helping recruit this 2025 class. He's been helping recruit this 2026 class. It was just kind of a natural move to slide him over. He's already familiar with Durkin and what he likes to do on defense. So that made a ton of sense after you saw the whole Charles Kelly deal and him leaving. It was kind of confusing, a lot of confusing information there whenever that happened. But again, it seems pretty clear that was sort of made in advance. Like that was kind of the plan once they realized Charles Kelly was gone. There were some really interesting names on that list for Jacksonville State that had, like, Skip Holtz, I think, was one of their top candidates, and he decided he's a Stallion for life. Lifelong Stallion fan. He's going to be a Stallion for life. Hopefully they last more than just one more season, and that decision is wise. But you had him. You had Patrick Nix was on the list. Cadillac was on the list. A lot of really interesting names with Alabama ties, but for whatever reason, a lot of them didn't pan out, and you ended up getting Charles Kelly. And again, I think it's going to be a really, really good hire. So what does Auburn do? Like, how do you fill out this staff? It looks like that you're going to have some sort of outside linebacker, pass rusher type coach is going to be your last position that you look to add. And there's really not any very public, credible names out there. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of talk. I don't know who's a guy that you guys would like to see as an edge coach. If you had to pick one, who would it be? Would you want a recruiter, a dynamic recruiter? Or would you want to go more technician here? I kind of go back and forth. You got some really good recruiters already on the staff. So you already got Vontrell, who's a beast. You got TJ Rushing, who's a beast on the trail. Durkin in and of itself is a beast. Crime's a beast. So what do you bring in? That defensive staff's has had a lot of success. I think that's going to be interesting to see what name pops up and when it pops up. That's the whole thing I've been thinking of too. Like, when is it the ideal time if a coach is going to leave to leave? It's like you're recruiting all the time now, so it's not like there's a good time, like a cutoff time where you flip coaches in and out. So I don't know when that movement is made, but there's a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different directions that you can go. Switching gears a little bit and hitting the portal. The dead period starts tonight at midnight. That means no more visits. No more visits until after the first of the year. Kids can still go into the portal. Kids can still commit. Kids can still sign. There can still be communication on the phones. You just can't visit until it opens back up. So I think you'll probably see a steady flow of kids going into the portal up until the 28th, and probably like a big rush right there at the end. And then as teams get eliminated from the playoffs, you'll probably see a few stragglers jump in as well. Going back to the question earlier, Blake says from offensive outside linebacker coach, he'd rather have a technician, but be aware next year we may lose recruiting coaches, so he has to be able to step in that role also. I mean, you can, in this day and age, especially with the way the game's changing and people getting fed up and people getting, tired of the grind, coaching changes are not rare at all. You're going to have, it's more rare to not have turnover. from year to year. So I agree. A technician would be nice. If you could go find you somebody that's just known for having guys get after the quarterback, that would be something that would be nice, because you can supplement his recruiting with several of the guys that are already on the staff. And pass rushing is vitally important. It's extremely important. And I mean, if you want to develop these high-ranked edges, these high-ranked pass rushers that you brought in, you definitely want somebody that you can bring them in and develop them. So I agree. I think a technician would be nice. Talking about going back to the portal. So Auburn has brought in, so far, you got 13 signees. You got your quarterback. You got 2 quarterbacks. You got a wide receiver. You got a tight end, a new tight end. We'll talk about in just a second. You got the biggest need was your 2 offensive tackles. You may be done there on the offensive line. You got your running back, linebacker, a corner, a safety, an interior defensive lineman, and then 2 kickers. Hey, we got a kicker now for kicking competition, and you got a punter. So 13 spots, already a little bit more than I thought we would already have to add. And I think you probably got 3 or 4 more spots left. 3 or 4 more spots left to add. I've been seeing this a lot too. Derek Anderson, bring Reed home. He's talking about Trevon. Unfortunately, I don't really know where he fits. I think he would be a good addition. He stole a recruit that didn't ultimately end up. I don't think he ultimately ended up at Central Florida, but he did steal a recruit from us. I can't remember it. Kendarius Riddick, I think was his name, possibly something like that. He was one of the first commits of that 2025 class. So it will be interesting to see where he ends up, but I don't know, since you've already promoted TJ Rushing as your defensive backs guy, I guess you'd have to have like crime leave or something like that. And I don't really see him going anywhere. So I've seen a lot of that. I just don't know where he fits. Because he's elevated now to where he had a room. So I don't think he wants to go back off the field. I think he wants to stay as a position coach. So I would love to have him back, but I just don't know exactly where he fits. Dennis Irvin. Do we sign another quarterback, or do we put the efforts on other positions? Dennis, this is a great question. And I heard something today that I think may be the solution for the 4th quarterback. I think he actually may be enrolled at Auburn. So I don't think Auburn's going to go get another portal quarterback at this point in time. I think the 4th quarterback is enrolled at Auburn. I think, and when his name is available, I think that he'll be somebody that'll be very familiar, and it's kind of the perfect scenario. I don't want to talk about it yet because it's not out there, and I don't know the rules around. I don't know the rules around it quite yet. So, but I do know the kid's on campus, and he's enrolled, and he sort of stepped away from football, but he looks like he may be jumping back in. So, I don't think there's going to be another quarterback signed. I think it's going to be somebody that they're going to sort of bring out of retirement, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Let's keep going. There was another good comment. I just missed it. What about T-Will? Derek Anderson, what about T-Will? I mean, he's a defensive coordinator, so like he's not going to step down to be a outside linebackers coach. So I think it's a great idea and thought. And maybe down the road, as if DJ Durkin keeps going the way he's going, he's probably going to get some head coaching gigs. Who knows? Maybe T-Will could come back as a defensive coordinator. I'll say this. This is sort of a sidebar conversation. Auburn fans, and I'm guilty of this too, we elevate our former players, I feel like, probably higher than they typically should be. We value players on staff, and that's great. So, because some of those guys have been really valuable, but what happens is then you get in a scenario where you hate to get rid of them if they're not getting the job done. If you look around the country, there's only a handful of guys that there's just not a ton of like staffs full of coaches that coach at that school. You may have one or two, but I don't think you see a ton where it's just like Clemson. I don't think Clemson has just a ton of dudes. They do have Nick Eason. Remember him? He had a lot of success here, but I don't think they have a ton of guys there that are Clemson guys. And you go around the country, Auburn seems to be one of the few that we always want to hire the Auburn guy. And it makes sense. I get it. But at the same time, I think you limit yourself a little bit, maybe going out and getting better coaches, or when you get them in, you can't fire them because they become sort of like untouchable. Like I think about, Cadillac, and, I love Cadillac. I huge fan. Loved him when he was at Auburn, but it's like, man, I felt like there was a lot of stuff that he could have brought more to the table other than just getting one running back a year. A lot of running back coaches in the SEC are special teams coordinators, or they are recruiting coordinators, or they are, wearing multiple hats. And that just was like, that just wasn't Cadillac. So, but because he played at Auburn, we always wanted him here, and maybe you limited yourself a little bit to what else you could get, just because you kind of held on to that Auburn fandom as a coach as well. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on the coaching front there. I'm not really 100% sure. I've heard, again, how you round out that outside linebacker coach position. I've heard some rumors, but it's all people that are employed elsewhere. So they're not even on the market yet. They haven't left their school. I guess that's typically how it works, though. They leave their school for another job, but there's not really anything substantial out there quite yet. Just a bunch of rumors. I feel you, Derek. I'm not throwing anything at you. I feel you. I'm with you a little bit. Let's see. TK, that was a difficult separation, and that kind of thing can give you a black eye. I agree. Exactly. That's what we're talking about, Carnell Williams. Anytime there's sort of like a riff with a former player who's a coach, then like you got everybody pulling in different directions. You got different like allegiances and things like that. And I just don't feel like it ever really ends well. But yeah. I talked about this earlier, Derek. You thought the outside linebacker spot was elevated by an off the field staff member. I think that's TJ Rushing. I think he's going to be your safeties coach for Kelly. I don't think he's going to be your edge coach. I think you're going to bring in another edge coach. But let's get back to the portal. Okay, so let's talk about the most recent addition, Preston Howard, a tight end from Maryland. Apparently, we just love Maryland tight ends. You got Rico Walker that you brought in last year, and now you got Preston Howard. Preston is a unique guy because he doesn't have stats that really jump off the page. He had 24 catches this year, which is good for a tight end. I mean, basically 2 catches a game for 189 yards, no touchdowns. Coincidentally, he's only had 1 touchdown in 2 years, and that was against Auburn in the Music City Bowl. But the thing about Preston is he played quarterback in high school. So he's a really gifted athlete. He was sort of like a mobile running type quarterback as well. He wasn't just a stand in the pocket guy. He was a dual threat quarterback, and they moved into tight end. So he's got a lot of athletic ability. Maryland spread the ball around pretty good. I mean, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with double digit receptions, 7 guys with over 100 yards receiving on the year. 6 different guys caught touchdowns. They did have one guy, Ty Felton, who pretty much was their leader, but then they kind of spread it around after that. So not one guy really jumps off the page after Ty Felton. So maybe you get him in here, and if he can bring you a little bit more competition as that receiving tight end. Maybe you can see what happens. See what happens there. But I think that'd be an intriguing. I think that's an intriguing prospect. Really helps that room out. I think you got your senior hopefully coming back. You got Rico Walker, and then you got some freshmen. And hey, I've been talking to a lot of folks. Hollis Davidson is one to watch out for to play early. From a receiving standpoint, he runs like a sub 4 640. He's a true 6'6", 220 pounds. He can catch everything. He can run every route. I think he could be one to watch as far as getting on the field early in that receiving tight end role. He's going to be a competitor. So I wouldn't expect to just hand the job to Rico or Preston right off the bat. Hollis is going to push these guys. So we'll see what happens there. And then the kicking situation, you're bringing in the most recent one was Connor Gibbs, the kicker from Southern Miss. He's going to come in as a preferred walk-on and compete, which I think that's cool. He's coming to Auburn this spring to compete for a scholarship. And you're going with – I'm still not totally giving up on Towns. I still think Towns can be a really good kicker. So we'll have to see what happens there. But just having another guy in here for spring to compete, I think, is a good thing. And I think, that just helps elevate that kicking game that you gotta have. You gotta have. Let's go. I saw a good comment. Dennis Irvin. When does Jackson Arnold report to Auburn, and how did the locker room react to the Jackson Arnold news? I'll let y'all in a little on something a little bit there. First of all, I think he gets here within the next couple of weeks. So he'll be here ready to enroll shortly after classes start. So get ready. He'll be here again shortly after New Year. How did the players react? I'll tell you this. Cam Coleman thought Jackson Arnold was the quarterback the entire time. He thought Jackson Arnold was going to be the quarterback from basically when the names were first associated. And so he was given that information from someone. So he believed that Jackson was going to be the quarterback the entire time, and he signed his extension, his new deal, his new NIL deal based off that information. So if that gives you any indication on how players felt, there's you one right there. Okay. And then you look at some of the portal guys you brought in after the fact. You got some of the top offensive linemen in the portal after Jackson had committed. So I think there's a lot of promise there. I think there's a lot of people that are excited about his potential and his upside. But that'll give you a little bit of a look behind the curtain. Cam Coleman made the decision. I mean, he could have gone a lot of different places. He could have gone – Florida wanted Cam Coleman very badly. There were some reports about some SEC receivers that were interested in going to play for Florida, or Florida had reached out to some SEC receivers about coming to play with Lagway. Cam Coleman was one of those. Not saying that the interest was more than just, hearing what your agent had to say about it, but he re-signed with Auburn. He restructured his deal and signed with Auburn before I think Jackson Arnold was even done and signed. So he thought Jackson was going to be the quarterback the whole time. He was excited enough. He could have gone and played anywhere. He was excited enough to go ahead and re-sign with Auburn. So that kind of gives you an idea of how at least he felt about it. So there's that. What's left? Obviously, we're playing the waiting game with Eric Singleton Jr., and I wish I knew the answer to what was going on there. I wish I knew because there's rumors that he had already signed and they're waiting for a big, they're waiting for like a big announcement. There's always been rumors, oh, he's going to sign on Friday. Oh, wait, he's going to sign tomorrow. Oh, he's going to do this. He's going to do that. But he just still is out there. He's still out there. He's done all of his visits. He's visited all the guys that have big money, like the big money spenders in NIL, Texas, Miami, Ole Miss, and then obviously Auburn. He hasn't committed anywhere. He came back to Auburn. So he came back to Auburn for another visit before the dead period ends, where he can't visit anywhere else. but he hasn't pulled the trigger. So there's so many different theories. Is he going to be in a Christmas announcement? Is he going to be a Christmas Day announcement? Are they going to maybe wait to announce his signing on at the end of the portal so that before the portal period closes, so that you can make sure that nobody on your roster goes into the portal? That would be, I think that's pretty far-fetched, but that could be something. Maybe Auburn's being strategic, just making sure, hey, Malcolm's comfortable, making sure Bryce Cain's comfortable, making sure Perry's comfortable, before they actually release this thing. That could be part of it. There's so many different things that directions you could go with that, because you could get the thing is, like, you could get your guys on campus comfortable with their NIL package. You could give them a raise. You could do whatever you want to. That part's not binding. That they could sign and say they accept this, that, they agree to their deal with On to Victory. They agree to this, they agree to that, but nothing's binding on their end because we don't have enforceable contracts from that standpoint. So really, maybe that could be a part of it. You wait until for sure you're not going to lose anybody before you announce it. Again, I don't know the right answer. I do know that Auburn feels very, very confident. Kenyatta Watson is extremely confident that he's going to be an Auburn Tiger. I haven't heard a peep out of Texas that feels confident. I haven't heard a peep out of Miami that feels confident. There's maybe an inkling of hope out of Ole Miss that they can sway him, but there's no really other players. It feels like it's Auburn with a huge lead and then a little bit of Ole Miss sprinkled in there. So I don't really know. I really don't know the answer there. I don't know. I would love to go ahead and have that announced because I think it would grab headlines. I think he's just recently dropped to the number 2 player in the portal, but I think he makes a big difference in next year's roster. He makes that offense very, very explosive, and your name's been linked to him. So if you miss him, it feels bad. It feels bad when you've been linked to him and also been linked as possibly being his leader. You know what I mean? Or being his leader going into this thing. So if he goes anywhere else, you feel like it's a huge loss. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. The fun storyline is going to be to see what happens with Clemson. I think that's going to be the fun storyline because there is a lot of talk that Dabo just does not play ball when it comes to NIL. He just doesn't. And these guys could be making a lot of money elsewhere. Guys like Peter Woods, guys like Tamarian Parker, TJ Parker, guys like even Cabe Klubnik. There's so many guys that their NIL value is just so incredibly high, and Clemson just they just don't spend like others do. So after the game, after they were eliminated, TJ Parker and Peter Woods tweeted out something like, "Thank you, Clemson." And then the Clemson boards just completely melted down. Completely melted down. It may not have meant anything. It was just kind of an interesting tweet. Why would you say thank you, Clemson, unless you were leaving and you're both sophomores? It's not like you can go into the draft. Just a complete meltdown. But, Auburn hasn't taken another edge yet. You let Clev Lubin go to Louisville when you could have locked that one down. Auburn led big and they decided, okay, we've got our eyes elsewhere. You got TJ Searcy you're looking at, and could somebody else pop? Like if a TJ Parker pops, I'm pretty sure he's from Phoenix City. That would be somebody that you could add that would be, a game changer right off the bat. But obviously he's got to go into the portal first. But yeah, I think that's going to be something to watch over the next. That's going to be something to watch over the next several weeks. Is like who starts? Yeah, he was Tamarian Parker when he was a recruit, and now he's TJ Parker. But yeah, 6'3", 265 pass rusher. He had 11 sacks this year. Hot almighty! Please go into the portal, child, and come be an Auburn Tiger instead of a Clemson Tiger. That'd be That would be fantastic if that were to possibly happen. But I think 2 more defensive linemen is definitely what you're looking at. And when I say defensive lineman, I'm looping pass rusher into that. And then maybe a nose or a little bit more athletic guy to pair with Dallas Walker. I think that completely solidifies the defensive line. I think you got to get an older linebacker. Definitely get an older linebacker. I don't know who that's going to be. You got Xavier Atkins. He's another young guy. He's a stud. They call him Debo. Any dude named Debo is probably a BA, if you know what I mean. Any dude named Debo will knock your face off. And this kid's film shows that. So you add him into the room, but he's young. I still feel like you need that Dorian Mausi guy. You know what I mean? That older guy that you can come in and kind of lean on. I think that's very important. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see also how that plays out. But I think, again, only a few more spots left, but I feel like all of them are going to be kind of big game hunting. And you can maybe be patient. Other than Eric Singleton Jr., I'm growing impatient. I'm growing impatient by the minute there. So, but I think the others just kind of wait and see. Let's see what pops up. They can't visit anywhere. Okay, so even if you have to wait until the dead period opens back up where you can have visits, there's no reason to super rush over the next, especially over this dead period of time. There's no reason to rush. There's no reason to reach. Just be patient and, close the deal. Close the deal whenever the deal is ready to be closed. I agree, TK. We're all growing impatient. We're growing so impatient that anytime any child puts a tweet up, everybody freaks out. Everybody melts. Deuce Knight has had us in a absolute coma the last couple of days with the stuff he's put up. He deletes everything off his Instagram, and then the night that Notre Dame plays, he puts up a story that's him in a Notre Dame uniform. And it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that he's just showing support for the team he was committed to for a year, and they're playing that night. So not that he's going to Notre Dame. These guys can't do that. They can't. They've signed. So they got to at least be here through the spring portal. Then I guess Deuce, if he wanted to, could transfer to Notre Dame, but that's not happening. When Charles Kelly went in, everybody's worried, oh, is Eric Winters going to leave? Is Anquan Fagan's going to leave? Well, they can't. They can't leave until at least the spring portal. And then if they leave in the spring portal, they can't go to another SEC school. So I know we're all freaking out. But like, we're growing impatient and everything feels like it's the end of the world. So I think we just kind of got to chill a little bit. Yeah. A 60-year-old linebacker. No, I just mean somebody that's like a junior or a senior ender. If you can get you a guy that's got a little bit more playing experience than a true freshman. That's kind of what I mean when I say an older linebacker, just a little bit more experience. I think that's what you're looking for. So guys, I think that's all we're going to have for tonight. I tried to get, everybody's busy with Christmas, so it's hard to wrangle up some folks. We'll try to do better for the New Year's special, the New Year's show next Sunday, and see if we can get some more folks on and have some back and forth. But I really appreciate you guys jumping in. We're going to have a whole week of shows, even with Christmas. So we'll have a lot of fun. Love your interaction. Love your comments. Everybody that jumps in on these things on Sunday night, it's always a blast. So, guys, I hope you have a great week. I hope you travel safely. I'm going to try to keep you in the loop on everything that pops over the week. You need to sign up for the barn, auburn.com, if you want to stay completely up to date on the information. But otherwise, we're going to be back every single day this week. If you like this video, like it. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_Charlie_5. We're going to be back every single day. It's another live edition of the Todd Budden Podcast. Stay Budden.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.